Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Andre with AndreReese.Biz. All right, guys. As you guys know, I start the videos out the same way all the time because I'm doing the same thing again. I'm out here doing another cycle cast out here in Richmond, Virginia, RVA. For those that know, they know, and having a great time. It's what time is it right now? It's probably close to what time is it right now? I left a little bit late, so it's about 9:30 on a what is it today? Thursday. So we're sliding into the weekend for most, you know. So definitely want to get out here and get this cycle cast going and talk about a couple topics. I think today I'm only going to talk about 3 topics. Let me go ahead and let you guys know what they are. So, probably the easiest topic to talk about, the first one would be, if you want to invest, you can start with as little as $1 a day. I'll talk about that with you guys. And I'll talk about a phenomenon that you will experience when you get control of your life, and it makes, in simple terms, every day becomes a Saturday. Talk a little bit about that. And then finally, I've had some different discussions recently about people, and there's a ton of content online about this, you know, so I'm gonna discuss it as well. And there's a lot of ladies out here in these streets trying to find good men, qualified men, and they're struggling to be able to do it. And there's been a ton of dating events that have happened, So, and the ladies go there and there's no men. So we'll talk about that also as well. So kind of on the B-roll here, I don't know if there's anything I want to kind of talk about right now. So everything is going well. We start our summer travel season next week, and we've got stuff booked out for about, you know, the next year. So when I say booked out, I'm talking about airlines purchased, deposits down, you know, credit cards put up for hotels and whatnot. So that stuff will kind of roll out over the next year. And some things that we want to do, everything we want to do is going to be really high impact and fun, and some of the things that we do are going to be once in a lifetime things. And a number of these things that we were looking at doing originally, I've had to roll them back and reschedule them for next year. So that's kind of what our brother's been doing. But like I said, we start our summer travel season next week, and we just keep going from there, and I look forward to it.
0 miles.
And I'll tell you,
and 49 seconds.
I work and hustle so that I can travel and have fun, and we can do things together and go to shows, go to events, you know. So that's where we like to put our time, energy, and effort, and hang out with family and friends and do things that are memorable. I'm not so much about I was just funny, I was telling my wife, I said, you know what, have you noticed that this year that my Amazon package delivery to the house is at a trickle? And she's like, yeah, I've noticed. I said, yeah, I have not been buying anything, you know. And I'm like, I don't really need anything. And stuff that I do need to replace that's, you know, gone or broken, or, you know, something that's a unique need that I gotta have, I'll go ahead and spend the money on that stuff if I have to, and there's no other way to work around it. And I'll give you guys an example. You know, we know Brown Lee. He's the tech reviewer. He does everything from batteries to cars. He's got his own company that he started. He started doing this stuff at, what I think he's got probably over 10 million subscribers on YouTube. And he gets invited to everything. People just give him stuff so that way he can review it. He's got that much influence. And he started his own company where he sells different products now. And one of them is a battery company. And it's a really cool battery that he offers. It comes up on YouTube all the time. And it's small, it's compact, it works great for the iPhone. It's got 2 USB-Cs in it, so you can charge multiple devices. Plus, it's got the spot on the back where you can actually charge your watch. And so I'm like, man, that's pretty cool, because when I travel with a separate plug to charge my Apple Watch. And I was like, man, I can just get this battery and I don't have to carry that plug around with me anymore. So I went to the website, took a look. It was like $90 for the battery. I think if you want to buy 2, it went down to like $165 for 2. I think there might have been a discount for 3 batteries. You know, I was like, you know what? I already got the cord already. Yeah, it's slightly inconvenient, but it works. So I immediately closed down the website and went back to working. You know, so that's kind of the tip that I'm on right now. You know, if I already have something that works and functions, there's no reason for me to spend money on it. So most of the stuff I have that does come in from Amazon is stuff that's essential, needed, replacement for something that I'm out of, whatever it might be. You know, so it's always worth trying to save a buck whenever you can. And even I just put some tickets on hold to a location. I got to pay for them today. And I've been watching these tickets for probably about 2 or 3 months. I got an alert on Google Flights that that's been tracking the price, and the price has gone up astronomically with all the different things that are going on, and there's a small amount of relief and then they jump back up. They're like all over the place. So I went yesterday and figured out a way to hack the system and changed up on how we're going to fly. And I think I was able to save probably about $400 between the two of us on buying the tickets by utilizing a slightly different option. You know, so you got to be really careful and a little bit tricky. And we might have a really, really long layover at one of the stops, but we've done it before, and we've got lounge access with American. So that makes everything really, really simple, easy, and comfortable. And that time of year also too, that we're going to be flying, we can be subject to threats from the weather. And it's better to get to our connection as soon as possible and wait. That way, if there's any problems leaving, we won't end up missing our plane, because everything we have planned on the back end is time specific. And if we don't make it, we're going to be done. You know, so that's kind of what's going on right now. You know, brother's just doing what a brother does, working, hustling, and getting caught up on clients that have accounting and bookkeeping that I had to pause on during tax season. And like I said, we start our summer travel season next week. And when I get back, I think I'm going to be at 6 flights for the year. So normally I typically will go on something after tax season is over with. I didn't do it this year. And you know, so there we go. So we're rolling, trying to make it happen. So let's go ahead and jump into the first topic we're talking about here. And so the first topic is investing $1 a day. So I saw like I said, you got to always be very, very careful with all the stuff that is being put out on the internet right now. A lot of it is slop, you know, AI slop, and just slop in general. It's just, you know, BS. And if you don't fact check this stuff, you know, you are going to become a victim. And it's so funny now when somebody says something kind of crazy and people are like, oh my God, thank the Lord that this happened, and you know, this is wonderful, and this is the best news I've heard all year. And it's obviously fake, you know. So, and then somebody will say, hey, this is not true. You can just, Google is your friend, you know. And so they had rain yesterday that happened last night, so everything is kind of moving down here a little bit. I don't know if you guys can see the guy behind me on the kayak this way. Actually, which way? That way, there. No, this way. So I think there's two guys down there, some ducks and some other stuff, but they're having a great time. So one of the things, and I follow everybody. Like I said, I follow the people that are on the red side, the red team. I follow people that are on the blue team. And so one of the people I follow is Hakeem Jeffries. And he was talking about how, you know, even though the stock market right now has run up, you know, and it is at an all-time high right now. And I think the S&P 500 over the last 5 years, if you include dividends, is up like 80%, so you figure average of 20% a year. Typically, it goes up. But like I said, none of this is investing advice. Make your own decisions, do your own research, talk to a qualified professional. I'm just talking about this stuff here for educational purposes only. Nothing more, nothing less. And like I said, the S&P 500 right now has ran up like 80% over the last 5 years to date. And if you take out the dividends, it's roughly about 75% or so. And typically, the S&P 500 returns about 8% a year, somewhere between 8 and 12 recently on average. And some years, you know, some years the amount is higher and some years the amount is lower. It all depends upon what's happening, what's going on. And if you guys don't understand the basics, so I'll explain it to you. So if you take any industry, there's always the gold standard, there's always the benchmark. You know, so if you take a look at just average ordinary vehicles, you know, and I ask clients this all the time so they can better understand it. I said, if you take an ordinary vehicle, a 4-door sedan, and we're not talking about luxury cars or ultra luxury or any of those kind of things. You just take an ordinary vehicle and you say, okay, 4-door sedans, what is the best vehicle that you can buy? And most people will say that the gold standard is the Toyota Camry. They're not exciting, they're not cool, they're not really even sexy at all. But if you take a look at a Toyota Camry and consider it, you know, they are very reliable, they require a minimal amount of maintenance when you do need to make them work. It's easy to get a 250,000 miles out of them without even blinking. And there's people that have had Camrys for decades that don't drive them a lot, and they're still in great shape, they're still running, and their parts are easy to get for them, etc. And so when you move outside of that, which is the gold standard, you have all these different variations of cars. So you can go down to like a Mini Cooper, and you can go up to, you know, like a big truck or SUV. And in every class, there's always the standard of what is considered to be the benchmark. And so everybody that comes out with a car outside of Toyota Camry, they're trying to prove value to you in other ways and give you something that the Toyota Camry doesn't give you. And sometimes they exceed, and most of the time they usually can be considered to fail, because they can look great, they can have a lot of bells and whistles, but their reliability can be a significant issue. You know, so that's the gold standard. And when it comes to investing, there's all these different things you can invest in. You know, you figure the most exotic stuff is if you get involved with hedge funds and what they do. They also have, you know, high-tech stocks. They've got bonds on the low end. You know, they've got all these different ETFs and mutual funds in between. All good, you know, but they all try to do something to provide you something that the S&P 500 doesn't. which is, and really the only thing you can kind of measure is comfort, safety, security, as well as return. So those are going to be probably the main variations that you're going to find when it comes to dealing with investments. And there may be others also too, but those are probably the main things that people follow up on and follow. And so now you have, the S&P 500 that is the gold standard, and it essentially, the way I describe it is that if you take the 500 strongest stocks, the Standard & Poor's, which is an organization,
0 miles.
they determine what 500 companies will be in the Standard & Poor's. So you can actually go online and Google and say, hey, what is in the S&P 500? It's going to show you everything from Johnson & Johnson to Coca-Cola to Chevron to publicly traded stores and restaurants and pretty much all the major brands that you're used to seeing, like McDonald's and etc. You're going to find them represented in the S&P 500. And of course, technology is going to be there also as well. You're going to find, Tesla, etc. And so, and that's why I always say, if you are, mad at Elon and you're invested in the broader market, then you're really working against your own self-interest. But, all good. It is what it is. A lot of people don't know. And so, let's see, I can still smell that thing I smelled out here before. And so, all good, And so what happens is, there's plenty of examples where companies have been involved in the S&P 500, and for whatever reason, they end up leaving the index. So there's two ways you can go about it. You can actually, on your own, duplicate the S&P 500. You can go buy all 500 companies separately, or you can buy a few of them. You can say, okay, well, I like tech and I like retail and whatever it might be. And so if you end up going and buying a stock, for example, that goes out of business, and you hold that stock all the way till it goes to zero, you've lost all your money that you put into it. So I'm assuming at one point somebody like Enron was in the S&P 500. We all know what happened to them. MCI, WorldCom, they were probably also in the S&P 500 also as well. And so if you hold these companies and something tragic happens to that stock that you have, everything that you own and put into it, if you weren't smart enough to sell, you're going to lose. It's going to go to zero. If there's something catastrophic, and I use this example all the time, pick any company that you think is very, very large, that is a leader and dominates. Imagine buying a whole bunch of shares in that company, and then imagine going to sleep, you're doing very, very well, and then the next morning you wake up and they find that everybody in the C-suite leadership team, the board, everybody, they are devil worshipers, and they are sacrificing folks under the headquarters. And they've been doing this for decades. Guess what's going to happen to that stock? That stock's going to go to zero, and you're not going to have enough time to try to get out of it and process everything that happened. But if that stock is in the S&P 500 and something tragic or happens to it or goes out of business or gets to the point where its earnings are real, real bad, and then they're on the brink of bankruptcy and going out of business and all that, at some point, the Standard & Poor's committee will say, you know what, this particular stock sucks and we need to replace it. So they will find a suitable replacement for that stock that is doing very well. And that's what happened with Tesla. Tesla wasn't in the S&P 500, and at one point, many, many years ago, I forgot what company it was that got booted out, and they put Tesla in it. And so now Tesla is in the S&P 500. All good, that's the way it works. So you can pick pretty much any company that's in the S&P 500. At some point, if things go all bad for it, it's going to be replaced with something else. And guess what happens? The index in and of itself is self-healing. So bad stuff that's in it, they get rid of it and replace it with something that's strong. And when something else pops up, later on that's bad, they'll turn around and push it out and replace it with something else. So in theory, when you buy individual stocks, you have a risk of these things going to zero. But when you have the S&P 500, in theory, you don't have the risk of the index going to zero because they'll replace any poor stocks that are in there with something else that is doing well, that's in a specific category. You know, all good. That's just the way it works. You know, and so the thing is, people are like, well, I want to invest in AI. I want to invest in robotics. I want to invest in, you know, automation. I want to invest in, you know, a whole bunch of different categories. It could be really almost anything. I want to invest in, you know, things that hold real estate, you know, the public storage facilities. I want to invest in retail, whatever. You can do whatever you want, say whatever you want, be about whatever you want, you know, all good. It is what it is. And so, but the thing is, all those individual bets that you're taking, they carry a significant amount of risk, you know, because you have to be able to stay on top of it. You got to manage those investments. They're always going to be at a risk of going to zero. So, you know, all good. That's the way it kind of works. And so the thing is, what Hakeem Jeffries was talking about, he was saying, you know, there's a whole class of people right now that are missing out on the stock market. And they are the people that are at the bottom rung or the middle rung. They don't have what it takes to be able to try to make it happen. And we need to do all these different things to try to right the wrongs and fix the fixes. You know, all good. And so,
5.0 miles.
you know, you have to market ideas the way you need to market them. You know, so I don't have an issue or a problem with how he wants to frame things. But for you, if this is the situation that you're in, it is highly fixable. It's easy to fix. It's simple to fix. And all you have to do is invest $1 a day. That's it. You can start there and build up over time. So what you can do is you can set up an account with, as long as you haven't gone and done a lot of horrible things with your credit, your background, you're on these do not bank lists and stuff, you can easily set up an account with somebody like Robinhood. And Robinhood is, I've been using Robinhood forever. And so with that, what I do is, you know, what's going on, man? Yeah, so what you can do with Robinhood is you can set up the account, you can link it to your checking account, and you can invest $1 a day. You can put on every Monday $5 into your account, or you can have it pull from your checking account daily $1 and buy a little slice of a security. You know, so you can buy the S&P 500. There's a couple different versions that are out there. There is VU. There's also spiders, and something like VU is very, very expensive, and it might take you a couple of years before you can even get, you know, one share of the stock. But there's another one that I buy, which is, let me see here. It's SPYM, and it's a State Street Spider Fund, and it essentially mimics the S&P 500. You know, all good. Hang on one second. So it mimics the S&P 500, and what I would recommend is, and this is what I've done with my daughter. I'm like, hey, you know, set up the account, link your checking account to it, and then have it auto transfer $1 a day, and then set up a recurring investment. And so choose your S&P 500 investment and put $1 in it every day. And so what Robinhood will do every day around 12 to 1 Eastern, they will pool your money along with a bunch of other people that are buying fractions of shares. And the way it used to be before in the past, if this ETF is selling for $90 a share, you had to put up 90 bucks in order to get a full share. And they've changed it now where you can just buy $1 worth of the security, so they'll take your money and pool it with everybody else, and then they'll go and buy these shares all at one time, and then they divvy them up amongst the people. And so if you put in $1, whatever the market's selling for at that moment, it will go ahead and buy $1 worth of the security for you. And then so at the end of the week, you'll have $5 that you've invested in the S&P 500. And then so right now, there's roughly between 250, I think, to 253, or maybe 254 trading days a year. And so you figure if you do $1 a day, that's roughly about $250 in a year. All good. And and then the nice thing is, if the market is climbing really high, really fast, all good. And if the market is going lower, there's some sell-offs, or there's some calamity where they're talking about a war, or they're talking about, tariffs, and things sell off, you're able to buy that day at a discounted price. And so over time, as the market continues to rise and grow, if it's returning on average from the last 5 years, let's just say 80%, the $250 that you put in per year without really doing anything will grow by 20%. So you'll end up having another $50 in your portfolio. So your account will be worth 300 bucks. And then next year, you're gonna put your 250 in there, and then the 300 is still riding along. And so by the end of the year, you're gonna have, 550 bucks in your account, and then add 20% to that. And then now you're up over $605 or $10, And so you just keep doing that over time. And so the goal is to, at some point, move to $2 a day. Hey, if you can do $2 a day, it's $500 a year, If you can do $3 a day, it's gonna be, $750 a year. If you can do $4 a day, it's gonna be up to $1,000 a year that you're gonna put into the account that can grow. And if you can put up to, $5 a day, you kind of get the drift. And so over time, as you start to, and I'll tell you, when my daughter turned 18, she set up a Robinhood account. And I told her, I said, you know what, I'm gonna give you money for your birthday. I'm gonna give you 500 bucks. And so she's like, oh, wow, thank you. I said, actually, I told her, I said, hey, you got two choices for your birthday. I can give you $100, free and clear, it's yours, take it. Or I can give you 500, but $400 has to go into a Robinhood account. You gotta invest it. And so she didn't know anything about it. Spent a lot of time explaining it to her. And I said, she was like, well, what's the catch? Why are you doing this? She's being skeptical. I said, at this age where you are right now, at 18, this is some of the most valuable real estate that you can possibly have by investing at such an early age. And I said, I wanted you to be able to see, as calamity happens, things happen bad with the market and with the world and with politics, how the stock market just keeps on going. And for me to tell you to use your own money, you're not gonna really appreciate that at this point, because you don't have a reference set for this. And so, and what I did is I gave her $100 of the 400, so she chose the 500. I gave her $100 for her to invest, and let her invest in, I think, 3 or 4 ETFs. And I said, when it gets to 0, let me know, and I'll give you your next 200 all the way till the 400 is gone. And so I said, the goal is hopefully one day you'll see how things are growing, and you'll take and add your own money. And so I was talking to her the other day, and she was talking to me about high yield savings accounts, and we were talking about her Robinhood account and how it's doing and all that, And she said that she's trying to probably start putting some of her own money into her Robinhood account to let it grow. And I was like, that's exactly what the idea of this whole experiment was, for her to be able to see that the money grows over time if you just keep putting it in every day. And so mission accomplished. And that's the thing with you, is that if you just put $1 a day in, over time, just keep an eye on it. And you'll start to notice the trend. Like I said, there's no guarantee that anything will happen favorably with this. But if you have time, space, it usually does. So, all good. How are you guys doing? And so that's the whole purpose of this. So like I said, I would recommend everybody, no matter who they are, if they can, set up a Robinhood account and put in $1 a day. And the comment that Hakeem Jeffries meant about, there's so many people right now on the middle class and lower class are missing out. I think a lot of it is people just don't understand and they just don't know. And, if you put the money in there and it grows, just leave it alone. If you got an emergency, leave it alone. Because you got to deal with capital gains and taxes if you end up selling it. And then over time, there's other things that you can invest in. You can start investing in, let's say you get to $5 a day on VU. At some point you may move to something that is tied to chips and AI and start with $1 a day, $2 a day, $5 a day, and then you might move into something that kind of replicates, technology, because technology always outperforms over the term, the S&P 500. It's just a known fact. It's just what happens. It's what it does. So, so I recommend anybody out there that is not sure how to invest, start out with $1 a day, do Robinhood. And I might even drop in the comments down here a code for you guys to sign up where you can get some free stock, and I can get some free stock also too off of Robinhood. So if it's available, it'll be down in the bottom in the breakout of what's actually going on here. So all good, guys. Let's go ahead and jump into the next topic, and let's see what we're talking about. We're going to talk about every day for me is a Saturday. So what does that mean? So I tell people all the time, every day for me is a Saturday. So if you're a person that works a W-2 job, like most people do, and you're lucky enough to work a standard work week, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, you got an hour lunch in there, a couple breaks. So you gotta crawl your way to work on Monday, you got the Monday blues, and then Wednesday's hump day, it's a halfway mark, and then you're starting to get a little bit more excited because you can see the weekend. Thursday, excitement builds. Friday, you're off, then you got the weekend. And so the way life typically works if you're an employee is you really only have your weekends and evenings to yourself. So, and if you're tired from a day's work, all you want to do is just go home in the evening, eat dinner, recover. You're not really trying to do much more than that. And if you ever really plan to do anything, sometimes you'll do stuff on a Friday, but Saturday is kind of your day. And so in the week, all 7 days in consideration, the Saturday is the best day. Friday, you're still at work, you're getting off, you're getting ready for the weekend. Saturday is all yours. You can do whatever you want. You can sleep in, you can go hang out with friends, you can go down to the park and go walk and, do whatever you need to do. You can go to a movie and go to the club that night. You can do everything that you want to do. But Sunday is a weekend, but it's oftentimes a pretty impactful day because you got so much stuff to do to get ready for the week. So if you're a meal prepper, you got to go grocery shopping, you might have to go to church, you know, that day. You got to do laundry. If you do it once a week, you know, you got to, you know, clean the house, clean the bathrooms. You got to do all that stuff, that way you can get ready for Sunday. And a lot of times people will just stay home on Sundays and do stuff around the house. They'll do yard work or whatever it might be. You know, all good. That's just the way it works. Like I said, if you're a working person, the best day of the week is going to be a Saturday, hands down. That's the one day a week that you have control over. If you look at it on a global perspective, you know, on a week's perspective, on a year perspective, you only have 52 Saturdays a year. And sometimes you might have 53 if there's an extra, the 366 days a leap year and it falls on a Saturday. You might have one extra Saturday. So you pretty much work all your life and do what you got to do in order to be able to make it to Friday so that you can enjoy your Saturday. And so when you're self-employed, like right now, like I said, it's 9:30. I'm out here. I was in the garage working on my bike and getting everything ready. I saw a ton of my neighbors in the development getting in the car and leaving, going to work. And I've seen them many, many times, and I wave to them, say, hey, what's going on? And how you doing? And it's like, hey, every day is a Saturday, you know? And so it's like, oh, I want to get there, you know? And so with me, every day is a Saturday, being self-employed, you know? So there's times that I have in the cycle where things are a little bit rough, you know, but I have control over how I attack and solve those problems, you know. Good morning, how you doing? And, you know, if I want to wake up early in the morning or stop in the middle of the day, if I want to go watch a movie, or if I want to, you know, go to the store or go shopping or do whatever, you know, I can stop what I'm doing as long as I don't have a conflict with client deliverables. And if I set the expectation with them, you know, they work on my timeline, which is great, you know. And so this is the thing that we all should work for if we can, to try to get to the point where every day is a Saturday. And some folks, they may work at the plant or may work at the office. They got a lot of work that they got to do. And, you know, you might have to wait until you're retired in order to get to the point where you got a pension and investments coming in, etc., so that you can, you know, ultimately, you know, get to that point in life. All good, you know. So how you doing? Yeah. So, and that's the goal, is when you see people, when we're out vacationing and we see people all over the world that are long-term travelers, they're nomads, you know, they're doing their own thing, you know, these folks are always in the Saturday mode. So they have complete control over their life and what they want to do and when they want to do it. And so all you have to do is just make sure that you have a plan. And I was talking to somebody the other day. I was like, before, in the past, I used to have a license plate on my car that was a 5-year planner. You know, this is when I got out of college. And so at different times, there's been different buzzwords about different things in life. And at one point when I was high school, I think Hall & Oates did a song, and they used the term in it, upwardly mobile. And so that meant that you had enough money to move around and make things happen. And then at one point it was like, what's your 5-year plan? So you're out there on the streets, dating, meeting people, whatever. And you're like, well, what's your 5-year plan? If they don't have a 5-year plan, well, you know, they don't really know what they want to do. But a lot of that has changed and morphed now to the point where, you know, people are lucky if they have a 90-day plan. You know, so if you want to get to the point where every day in your life is a Saturday, and you're able to do what you want when you want to do it, you have to really go out of your way to plan. And just like on the investment topic earlier, investing $1 a day, or about coming up with a plan for your life, if you don't know what to do and you need somebody to talk to, you can always book an appointment with me, $195 for about an hour. And I've never raised that price for a consultation. So I used to charge that, you know, probably 20 years ago. And I've thought many times about raising the price. I don't. And my other prices have gone up. But the 1 hour consultation, it acts as a barrier to entry, and it tests people's seriousness and their resolve. And if you're willing to put up the $195 to have a conversation to get an idea on what you can do and how you can go about it, hit me up for a consultation. So like I said, the goal here is that what I'm experiencing today is something that you guys can also experience as well. And it doesn't have to be all at one time. It can be kind of gradual, where you kind of, you know, maybe every Friday and Saturday is like a Saturday. And then maybe eventually, you know, Sunday becomes like a Saturday also too. Doesn't have to happen all at one time. And those are all things that we can definitely talk about. I can get you guys through them. So, you know, all good. And I don't think I have really anything else to say about the topic. You know, like I said, the goal in life should be based on a plan, and you should have checkpoints along the way. And, you know, you got to really take the time to figure out what is good for you, what works for you. You got to figure out your own little manual on an instruction booklet on what to do and what you need to do, and document that stuff. And when you're in a moment of despair, you're able to go back and refer to the manual and get yourself right back on track. You know, so that's very straightforward. And then ultimately, when every day for you is a Saturday, typically what I find is people suffer from 3 defining characteristics. They know what happiness is, and they're able to figure out how it's temporary, and what kind of things that they can do short term that bring them happiness to keep them satisfied and keep them motivated. Other folks, actually the second one is to be able to find and figure out what brings you joy. And so, and obtain joy in your life where it's just a hum. Happiness is temporary, joy is a permanent feature. And then once you've gotten that taken care of, then you're able to move into the peace mode, where you accept life for what it is, you appreciate the things around you, and you're able to be completely self-sufficient, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And like I said, these are all things that are all within everybody's reach. And if you've ever looked at my, and I've actually updated now. Before I used to say, find happiness and your life will be epic. Then I changed it to joy. Then as I was doing a video the other day, I've actually updated the saying now to find happiness and joy and peace and your life will be epic. So those 3 things all work together. So there you guys go. That's my, let me get off, that's my TED Talk. Let me get off the soapbox here. So let's talk about the final topic. So what's the final topic? Right now, like I said, there are a ton of people out here on this planet. A lot of them are ladies, and there are a lot of men out there also as well. And a lot of ladies, we'll talk about them. That's what the purpose of the topic is, are trying to find a qualified individual that they can begin a long-term relationship with that will one day turn into an engagement and then finally marriage. And so like I said, this is not a blanket statement. It's not everybody out there. I say a large majority of folks are. There's always going to be variations. And so this doesn't apply to you. Don't take offense to it. It applies to a lot of folks. And so, you know, there's a lot of competition. Just in general, I think there's more ladies on this planet in the US than there are men. So naturally, there's going to be a discrepancy in matching. And that can be attributed to a number of different factors. People talk about them all the time. There's no reason to even discuss those. Use your own imagination. And so when you're trying to find a mate that's suitable, everybody has the general same thing in mind that they're looking for. They're looking for a lot of times a taller guy, somebody that's really successful, somebody that's educated, somebody that's a lot of times people throw in there, a man of God and a man of faith, however you want to define that, etc. So there's a lot of physical characteristics that they look for, and it's really easy if you don't see something like that in a guy upon first look. It's easy for you to just say he doesn't qualify without taking the time to unwrap the package. And so men have their own set of requirements that they want from a lady. And like I said, I'm not here to necessarily talk about that, but we know that they exist as well. And so a lot of it is all preference. We shouldn't poop on anyone or, crap on anyone if they have a preference for whatever. So we all have to be happy with our choice in the end. All good, no worries. And so what they've done now is they try to find a way to, I call it trying to hack the system. And so how do you hack the system? You do something that's outside of how things have normally been before in the past, and hopefully in the end, they'll create results. And like I said, I was talking to somebody about that. I've talked to a few people about this recently. So what's happened over the last few years is women have decided, hey, let's create these wonderful environments where we can have all the beautiful single women come out, all shapes and sizes and heights, and let's call it a dating event. And here, hang on a second, I'm gonna make sure I get across this. So we can call it a, how you doing? We can call it a dating event, and we'll come, we'll charge everybody to be there, and then that'll give us a chance to speed date or mix and mingle. There's 100 different variations of how they run these events. But what's happened, as you kind of step back now, is that the ladies are finding out that men are not coming to these events. And so they might have 100 ladies that show up, and there might be 3 guys that roll through. And so it's like, what do we do in order to attract the men to come to these events that we set up? And a lot of them are at very posh and chic and foo-foo restaurants or locations, etc. And they've got great lighting, they've got great decor, they've got a great spirit to them. All the things that a lady may like and want to have in an event. And men aren't showing up. So in the end, there's a lot of frustration, a lot of people get upset. They've paid a lot of money to come be a part of these events, and there's no representative guys there. And then the ones that do show up, they are not the ones that they want to date, And so, this is where the conundrum lies in all this. How do you go out of your way to participate in these things and get what you want? Well, I think the one problem that people are missing in these equations is, there's a lot of things that ladies do out here on this planet, and a lot of it attracts attention, and a lot of it attracts comments and issues from other women, and all that whole thing. There's been a number of different people that have talked about these things over the years and tried to address and work through them. And the thing that's always missing here is, if you want to be able to do something, if you want to be able to achieve something, you have to build a product that your target customer, in this case men, want to have. And for the most part, these events don't take into consideration what men may potentially want in these events. And so I'm not here to speak on the men. You know, the best thing to do is to talk to that demographic and figure out, you know, what they're looking for, and try to build events around, you know, what those guys are looking for. And this is the thing I've always told my friends, even when I was younger. You know, I was like, you know, this is like even back when I was in my 20s, when we would talk about dating and girls and boys, and you know, it's like one of those things, no matter who you are, you're special in your own ways, of course, but you got to figure out who else are you special to. And so if you are targeting a billionaire, and you're targeting somebody that is extremely wealthy, or a CEO, you got to find out what those particular guys are looking for, and you have to try to be that woman if you're not that woman already. And if you are what they're looking for, it's just all a matter of proximity, of being within visual shot of these guys, and then they will find you, you know. And so that's the whole thing with dating, is that if you're not doing what these individuals want, in the end, you're going to suffer greatly, because, you know, you're not going to attract your target market. And so I've gone to events before, and, you know, let's say you end up going to a Comic-Con. You know, everybody at Comic-Con is looking for a certain type of product or merchandise. Let's imagine you go there and your whole table is all about selling spatulas. You got yellow ones, blue ones, green ones. You may make a sale, you know, here or there, but the majority of your money is going to go to waste unless you have spatulas with superheroes on them, or characters, whatever it might be. People may not even be interested in that. And so they probably already have a spatula already. You know, you haven't given them a reason to throw the one out they have now or set it aside. There's a car with a boot on it. In order to, in order to upgrade and get yours. So that's the thing when it comes to, you wait a second here. That's the thing when it comes to dating and dating events, is that you have to really take the time to build an audience and build a connection with men, and try to build something that they're looking for. And if that's what you do, then the guys will show up. And then the other thing too is, a lot of the super, high value guys, or the ones that, the ones that everybody's trying to go after, a lot of those guys don't have to go to events to get girls, you know, and so they can just meet them in their day-to-day walk. They can meet them at the gym. They can spot people on their own, you know. And I know there's a point, I'm not saying I'm a high value guy or not, you make your own decision on that, but I know there was times where, when I was single, you know, in the last 5 years, I try to keep that stuff as quiet as possible. And I talked about it before in other videos, because I didn't want the smoke. You know, I didn't want to have to constantly, you know, be dealing with that, you know. And so if I wanted to end up picking somebody, I wanted to do it quietly and secretly, and surprise one person, you know. And so would I had ever gone to a dating event? No, not at all. Even if it was free, no, I wouldn't have done it. If you would have paid me like maybe, and I'll tell you, sometimes in the mail I get these things where different banks are like, move your money, we'll give you $1,000 or whatever. I'm like, no, I'm not interested in even doing that. It's $500 all the time, $200, $100. You know, it's a nice arbitrage opportunity, but I'm not interested in doing that, because what I already have right now works. You know, it meets my specifications, it has everything that I need, and I don't need to constantly be hit up with noise. And so I just take that stuff and throw it in the shredder. So I recommend that if you're trying to find a nice guy out here on these streets, do everything you can do. So I'm not telling you not to go to the events. Go to the events. That's just one avenue. You know, go to sports bars, go to the gym, you know, join local events out in your area. Just be visible and be seen and get yourself together. You know, that, and remember, most guys are not looking for a lot of crazy things that people do, you know, cosmetically, etc. They oftentimes just want somebody that is simple, ordinary, easily maintainable, and comfortable. And you know, if you fit that, because I've seen these videos online where they have one lady that starts out one way, and then she does like this whole contouring thing, puts on a wig, and she's like a completely different person. I don't think any guy wants to deal with that long term. So just be aware, you know, whatever you are, whoever you are, work on yourself and try to produce the best package you can. Let people know that you are, you know, out here looking for a relationship, and you know, rely upon the help of the community, and hopefully in the end things will play out. And then make it a point to be out here and be about. And then just remember, you know, stay away from sneaky links and you know, situational shifts, because if you do have somebody that runs into you one day that thinks you're cool, they're gonna evaluate you. And this evaluation that takes place is gonna happen at an arm's length. You're not even gonna be aware of it. And if they sense that you have stuff that doesn't fit within their best interest, they're gonna keep it moving. They might mess with you for a little while, put you in a category or whatever, but you wanna just make sure that you guys are being intentional. So always have male friends, cousins, uncles, fathers, you know, that type of stuff around you that you can talk to about these things, help you vet individuals as well. But like I said, most importantly, just do everything you can to present yourself as a full and complete package, and not be hocus pocus, but be really, truly, legitimately cool, and then you'll be able to find exactly what you need. So that's it, guys. Got nothing else to talk about today. I appreciate you guys following along today on this Cyclecast, and I'll be back another day soon to hit you with this ism. Peace. In my life. Oh, shit. Okay, my brother fell. This is black ice. Okay. All right, I'm okay. All systems check. All right, I'm good. So let me just penguin it.